Many of you may have heard that Republican Representative Thomas Massie introduced the bill Federal Reserve Abolition Act, H.R. 8421, in order to abolish the Federal Reserve. But what many of you may not know is the story behind the creation of the Federal Reserve, which starts right here on Jekyll Island in November of 1910, when six powerful political and business leaders held a secret 9-day meeting at Jekyll Island Club off the coast of Georgia. This is Jekyll Island Club in 1948. This meeting, which was ostensibly set up by Senator Nelson Aldrich, included himself, a U.S. Senator, a chairman of the National Monetary Commission, A.P. Piatt Andrew, Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, Frank Vanderlip, President of the National City Bank of New York, Henry Davidson, Senior Partner at J.P. Morgan Chase, Charles D. Norton, President of the First National Bank of New York, and of course Paul Warburg, a partner at Kuhn Loeb and Company, who was heavily educated in European central banking. And in case anyone was wondering, Paul Warburg directly represented the Rothschild banking family, and he was a Jewish man. A couple of important things to touch on. The Federal Reserve is privately owned. Now, how it works is that 12 regional Federal Reserve banks are structured like corporations, and member banks are required to hold stock or shares in the Federal Reserve. What they say is that that stock can't be traded or sold or anything like that. But the fact remains that the member banks are privately owned, right? And so they are privately owned by private individuals who own, and then the banks. So private individuals own the banks, then the banks own the shares to the private Federal Reserve. Therefore, the Federal Reserve is privately owned. And number two, they try to say it's a conspiracy theory that the Fed profits from the American people. And what is actually happening is that the Federal Reserve creates money and then it lends it to the government for interest. And then the private individuals who own the banks, they receive statutory dividends. And historically, it's about 6%, but it differs depending on the bank size. And after expenses, statutory dividends, and surplus rules, they'll remit the remaining earnings to the U.S. Treasury. But the fact remains that they do receive dividends, they do receive interest payments. The private owners of the bank. Again, it is not a government thing. There are private owners of the member banks who are receiving dividends